Hi, good day everyone. My name is Dr. Sneha Krishnan, and I'm going to be presenting today on menstrual hygiene in South Sudan. This work was undertaken last year with the help of collaborators Andy, Nitesh, and friends from Christian Aid and ADA in South Sudan. Before I begin the presentation, I just wanted to give a context. South Sudan in 2019-2021 onwards has been facing severe annual floods every year. It's categorized as highly vulnerable, and the capacity to cope with any kind of disasters is considered to be quite weak. In combination to disasters, there's a huge amount of displacement within the country and from outside, and combined with the poverty levels, it provides a very challenging environment for humanitarians to meet the needs of different vulnerable groups who are at risk. Within this context, we found that menstrual hygiene for women was one of the most neglected issues for young girls, adolescents, and women. Before we get into detail about menstrual hygiene, we need to understand what are the different stressors that women experience, women in different populations in the region experience. They are exposed to different hazards such as floods. Then there was the ongoing threat of COVID-19, conflict and displacement within the region. And many of the community members were actually sharing that they are actually feeling threatened by day-to-day incidences of snake bites and other infectious diseases which are spreading because of waterlogging in these regions. And because of waterlogging, they've not been able to cultivate, and as a result, there's been a growing food insecurity in the region as well. The impact of these hazards on their different in the different domains of their life as a result of waterlogging has been the limited mobility. People have to wade through chest deep water levels which have been stagnated for many months now. The schools have been shut down, farming is impossible, there is limited access to market, and businesses are suffering. Most of them rely on canals to move from place A to place B. But this is only possible for villages which are situated near the rivers, and others are quite restricted in terms of how they access different health facilities, etc. Within this context, we undertook a piece of research virtually with the help of Christian Aid, ADA, and Edge Consultancy, uh, using computer assisted surveys. The work was undertaken in June 2021 when team members from South Sudan actually went to the regions Ayod and Fangak. One of them was actually facing floods during this work. The teams were led by ADA and Christian Aid in these provinces. Many of the DEC partners who were actually funding this work, DEC was funding the COVID response, were actually based in Juba, and we were able to get in touch with them and interview them for this work as well. The key limitations of this research was actually the accessibility to internet, the limitations on how much we could do the data collection procedures with the field working team, and trying to ensure that there is immediate feedback which they could receive. So these were some of the challenges, and hence uh, eliciting multiple voices within the communities and understanding who were interviewed was a bit difficult to manage remotely. So the work is actually influenced by whatever literature was shared with us and available online. We undertook focus group discussions in these two provinces. There were four in total. Key informant interviews with experts and DEC partners, like I mentioned, 15 of them, and household surveys of more than 460 in these two provinces. A breakdown of the household survey shows that we ended up speaking to almost 95% women in these households, and the distribution by these two provinces is also provided. Jumping straight to menstrual hygiene, we try to understand what are the different views that people held, how easily are they able to talk about menstrual hygiene, what are the different resources that they use, overall existing wash conditions, and how are they disposing these products. When we ask them whether they are able to freely discuss issues about menstrual hygiene, about their own needs, we found that not many of them were comfortable talking about this in the public. More than 28% uh, said that they don't talk about these issues even within their households or within the communities, and more than 11% actually did not want to even talk about this during the survey. Uh, to supplement this, I wanted to add that women usually are responsible in these households for fishing as in, because farming is not happening at the moment, they relied on the flood waters for different purposes in their household, for cleaning, cooking, etc. But because they do not have access to food resources anymore, such as barley or wheat, they are now relying on lilies, water lilies, and collecting them, catching fish, and then using whatever limited they are able to find uh, for food and distributing it within the household. So feeding is primarily a woman's responsibility. And if they fail in that, there were incidences of gender-based violence which were reported by the team members. Um, and this was often because of their failure to provide food for their family members within the newer community. Uh, while speaking about these practices, this is the quote by one of the education directors in Punjab province. He emphasized this traditional practice and the norms surrounding what is a woman's role within the family. They have to look for food and prepare it and ensure that the children are eating before 7 p.m. And if that doesn't happen, then the men usually are very upset and they would often physically or verbally abuse them, because this is her only job. And if she fails in doing it, then what kind of a mother is she? But given the challenging circumstances in which women are living in this community, it's very, very commonly observed. For menstrual hygiene in particular, we find that we don't have any, they don't have any access to menstrual products as such, uh, sanitary pads or cloth, etc. These pads are so expensive that women refrain from using anything. They do mention that sometimes they can use cloth which is available in the house, but because cleaning and washing and there is no privacy, they have stopped using even cloth in many instances. So what they do is they just let it flow. Um, in in two of the female focus group discussions with females, we found that they say we just let it flow and avoid going near men during those days. We do not have sanitary towels. Most women here don't even know what that is. So, supplementing their lack of resources for menstrual hygiene is also the access to latrine and difficulty in accessing safe water, either for drinking or for cleaning or for maintaining hygiene purposes. Even hand washing, which was considered to be one of the most effective way during the fight to COVID-19, was also quite challenging. Many said that they used the local floodwaters to wash their hands. Um, 90 more than 90% of the households did not have access to latrine, and they relied on open water sources, rivers or ponds, of, and only 1% of the household mentioned that they had access to tube wells. So, given these challenging circumstances about wash in general, you can understand that menstrual hygiene is also one of the least prioritized topic for women, for these communities, for these households and the population. Um, Wash has totally collapsed in the community, as one of the key informant told us. They either defecate directly in the water or behind the bushes to relieve themselves. Toilets in the schools are in bad shape, and nobody can use it because it's so filthy. There are no hand sanitizers or facilities for hand washing. Community members bathe in the water, with women, children, and men exposing themselves, which is a normal practice as they maintain body hygiene. Um, in instances where women do use menstrual hygiene, we find that they do not have any idea of how to dispose these products. Mostly, they dry it in hidden places, and they are often either throwing it away in the open air or burning them. So to conclude, I would say that there are a lot of barriers to menstrual hygiene. They face, including lack of financial and material resources to improve their use of these menstrual products. But there is also knowledge gaps regarding why any kind of protection is necessary, what are the different infections that would spread. And there are also social cultural norms which dictate what women could do and what is their agency in terms of deciding how to take care of their own hygiene. And the impact of these regular floods are also constraining their access to practicing safe menstrual hygiene. The potential approaches, because menstrualizing is not prioritized even for organizations who are trying to respond to these floods or participating in adaptation and livelihood projects, this rarely gets addressed. Local governance and traditional leadership models are also not prioritizing what women are facing in these situations. uh, the priorities of communities is actually in the construction of dikes which will protect them from more rainfall next year and prevent floods from happening. The gender roles are quite visible in the community. Like I said, women are actively leading the household recovery and are responsible for different activities within the household, even though they are also impacted by these multiple hazards. Their health, nutrition, and diet is also affected. So there is a larger picture of their health and nutrition and well-being, which is widely impacted. But menstrual hygiene often gets ignored within these challenging circumstances. That is it from my end. Thank you so much.